Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my humble casa, my home in Livingston, Montana. Okay, what's the date today? It's the 15th of May of 2020, if that makes any difference. I got a question to ask you. Are you in the mood for I don't know really if you want to call this funny or not, but I personally, after the dust settled and everything, I think this is absolutely hilarious. But then I've got kind of a weird sense of humor. So, it's storytelling time from my high school days. So if you don't like that kind of stuff, just shut this video off right now. Save yourself some time, save me some time. Okay, I graduated from Polson High School, Polson, Polson, Montana, back in 1970. Now I've got a little, like I say, a high school story to relay on to you folks, if you will. I'm trying not to laugh. It's probably really not a lot funny, but whatever here. Okay, I was one of these kind of guys that came to Polson from a city called Ronan. I only had 2 years to go in high school, but my family moved from Ronan to Polson. I don't want to get into all that, but I had 2 years to go. So therefore, I was in a brand new school, and I really didn't know everybody, okay? Sets that scenario up. Well, anyway, I know I was a sophomore. I remember this all too well. Well, one bright sunny day or whatever have you in between classes, you know how you're rushing around, going to your locker and getting ready to go to your next class. I'm trucking down the hallway, and all of a sudden this kid, and I knew doggone well that this kid was quite a bit younger than me. Well, come to find out he was a sophomore and I was a senior, but he comes tripping up right in back of me. Okay, you got that? He comes tripping up right in back of me and kicks me right square in the rear end, only just a little bit forward, and catches the family jewels. Now, I'm not trying to be dirty here. I'm just telling a story. This is a true story. I couldn't make up this stuff if I had to. In other words, he give my family jewels a little knocking around. And of course, I whirled around and told him, I said, what the Hell did you do that for? Blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And all he did was just went, hey, like that. And, just went running down the hallway, that kind of deal. So I'm thinking to myself, man, that was weird, because I didn't know this kid from Jack Adam, So a couple weeks later, same thing. In between classes, trucking down the hallway, trying to get to your next class, coming away from your lockers or whatever have you. Same thing happens. This kid sneaks up in back of me and takes and drop kicks me right in the rear end, if you will, only it really wasn't in the rear end. It was a little bit forward to that. Might as well just say the family jewels, the very spot on a man where it hurts the very most, And man, I wheeled around and I really cussed this kid, And matter of fact, I started kind of after him, And of course, he was expecting me to do that, and he ran off like, and I warned him. I said, cease and desist with what you're doing or I'm going to break your skull, or something like that. I give him a big warning anyway. Well, down the hallway, this guy ran off, you're laughing and carrying on a bunch of shit. Stuff, excuse me. I didn't mean to swear here on YouTube. Anyway, so for the third time, same thing. I'm just trucking down the hallway of Polson, Montana's old high school. I don't even think it's there anymore. And this kid, same thing, sneaks up in back of me, kicks me right in the rear end, right in the family jewels and all that stuff, Only this time, man, I seen red. I mean, I went into complete orbit. I mean, I I think I came about 4 foot off that vinyl floor, if you will, and made me the biggest, longest grab that you ever seen. And I got, only this time, this little miserable maggot, he wasn't expecting me to move that fast, but I moved really, really fast, and I got him right around here, right around the throat, right around the Adam's apple. I mean, if you ever want to talk about a kid, a young kid that wanted to, I shouldn't say kill or murder, but exterminate, it was me. I mean, I was so mad, all I seen was red. I mean, red, red, red. And I had this kid right by the Adam's apple. You know, and what I started doing, we used to have these old metal lockers on both sides of the hallway. Some of you, I don't know what they got in schools now, but they used to have these old metal lockers that had that tinny sounding noise when you open and shut them. And I took this guy right by the neck, and this is what I did. I took his melon and I started bouncing it off every piece of metal, every hard thing. I started bouncing it. I would have bounced his skull right off the concrete steps outside if I could have got out there fast enough. But I just took him and went from one side of that hallway to the other, just bashing his head right into those lockers. And I mean, I put some dents in those lockers too with his skull. My whole objective was to make that metal part of his skull. Are you with me? Do I got your attention here now? And I went from one side of that hallway, danced him over to the other side, and I can't remember how many good thumps, how many wake-up calls I gave him, but I want to say I probably got a half a dozen in there anyway. I bounced his head off of those lockers at least 6 times, I'm thinking. Anyway, to make a long story short, it took 4 teachers and 1 principal to separate me and that kid, you know. And I'm not going to tell you the name of the principal just cause I don't want to, you know, I don't want a bunch of trolls and everybody going, oh, I'm going to check this story out and see if it's true. I don't care what you believe because it is true. But his name was Mervyn, and we used to call him Swervin' Mervyn. You know, we used to call him either Swervin' Mervyn or he had another name that we called him because he had a chrome dome, because he had a perfectly bald head. Chrome dome or Swervin' Mervyn. Anyway, old Swervin' Mervyn, man, he grabbed me and by the arm, he says, Jim, he says, I want you down in my office right now, you know. So down the hallway we went, and we went into his office and shut the door and everything, and he plopped down behind his desk and he goes, Jim, he says, what's the matter with you? He says, you're one of my very best students. I've never had any problems out of you and like that, you know, and giving me the old song and dance and whatever have you. And I was still mad. I am so mad that I want to just, well, you know, kill somebody, you know. And I didn't really get up. I really didn't get up on his desk, but I know I planted my hands halfway in the middle of his desk, papers and everything, and I looked at him and I said, look at here, Swervin' Mervyn. I mean, I was that mad. I was that mad. I cracked myself. I either called him Swervin' Mervyn or Chrome Dome, one of the two. I can't quite remember which. I told him in like about 3 sentences, I says, how would you like it if somebody kept coming up in the back of you and kicking you in your family jewels, Joe? You know, and I basically, you know, kind of calmed down by them and told him what the circumstances was, what this kid had been doing to me. He goes, I'll be right back. You know, he held up a finger like that and says, you just stay right here. I'll be right back. Anyway, he goes and finds that kid and kicked him out of school because he knew doggone well I was, I wasn't going to lie to him or any of that stuff. And he got the truth. He finally ended up getting the truth out of the whole matter. I think he suspended him for like I don't know, it wasn't a real long time, like a week or a couple weeks or something like that. But the thing that I loved about it, the thing that I really loved about it, is I'd be walking down the hallway after this was all over with and the kid got back in school again. Here this kid would be coming down the hallway and he'd see, and here I'd be coming towards him, and man, he'd run down the stairs, he'd duck into the the bathrooms, he'd duck into an empty classroom, he was crawling underneath. He was crawling underneath tables. He was doing every doggone thing to get away from me. But before that whole mess was all over with, I pointed at that kid before that principal got separated us, and I told him, I says, I told you, fool, not one more time did I want you doing this kind of crap to me. And so I just thought I'd liven somebody's day up. I don't know, this, kind of a stupid little childhood story, but this actually did happen, So I hope you enjoyed it. That's all I've really got to say. How many minutes I got here? 11 minutes, 12 minutes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for visiting me in my home here. And whatever you do, don't kick the wrong dog. Are you hearing me? Don't kick the wrong dog. Like I say, take care of yourselves. We'll see you on down the trail, and adios, my friends. Where's the stop button?